Okay, so before we get into AED, I want to review the heart, cardiac emergencies, and also the cardiac chain of survival. So I'm going to share my screen with you so you guys can see what I'm talking about here, and then we'll buzz through a few of these things. Um, so what I'm looking at is just reminding you that anytime that you have, why do we use an AED? And the question is answered by looking at these symptoms. So anytime somebody has chest pain, discomfort, pressure squeezing that lasts longer than 3 to 5 minutes, anything that spreads from the core of the chest out to the arms, to the back, to the shoulder, this is time for some care. So you got to think about what this might be. So what this is probably the start of some form of heart issue. Um, here are some other symptoms. So we have dizziness, trouble breathing, nausea, pale, sweating, fatigue, those kind of things. Those are all part of this. And then you jump into what are the two issues here. So a heart attack is when the blood flow is slowly blocked, right? Which can be to any part of the body. So you can have a blockage to the brain, which we call a stroke. You can have a blockage to the arms, blockage to the organs. All those things happen, and all those things can cause um, your heart to fail. And then you have a cardiac arrest when the actual heart actually stops beating. Two totally different things, but actually result in the same kind of outcome. So any of these signs and symptoms, we need to make sure that we get this process started. Okay. Um, Also, if there's any, just a few things to think about. One is if you have some sort of trauma, this could be a head injury, car accident, those kind of things, a shock, drug overdose. These are usually starting points to get the heart to go into challenge mode. And so it's important that you see that. And then this piece is really important. So I showed you this in lesson 2, the cardiac chain of survival, that we recognize an emergency, that we get CPR going. The focus today is going to be on early defibrillation. Okay, so we're in step 3. And remember, we don't really have a lot of say in step 4 and 5, except for getting them started, getting them there. But our real focus and our real goal here is to get steps 1, 2, and 3 going. So make the call, start CPR, and then get the defibrillator on hand. Okay, the great part about defibrillators is they shock if needed, they don't shock if they're not needed. So there's a nice blend between the two that give you the opportunity to be ready if needed, but not necessarily have to use it. But having it there is a great, great, great option. Okay. Um, when you're looking at children, there's just a slight change. Obviously, we want to prevent the injury to begin with. And I think that's super, super, super important that if you guys are caring for children, that you look for things that could cause them issues. So things that they could choke on, things that they could put in their mouth, things where there's an electrical outlet near, those kind of things. Being able to recognize that ahead of time. So injury prevention is really, really key to this. Okay. So as we think through this, these steps, one of the things I want you guys to just remember is you have the ability to recognize these things, and it's just you being aware. I think sometimes we go, we're 14, we're 13 years old. We don't have to be aware. But if this is a family member, if this is a brother or sister, mom, dad, you got to pay attention to this stuff. Okay. Now, in today's pandemic world we're living in, there is one thing to think about is some of these signs and symptoms actually cross over into some of the signs and symptoms of our COVID situation. So those might be a little bit different. At the same time, anything that starts in the heart where pain radiates out to the arms, to the back, to the head, to the neck, something to pay attention to. So that'll get us going. I'll go through some of the steps here in the next couple slides. Thanks.